Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I'm sharing a card created with Trinity stamps with Sympathy stamp set. I normally love floral cards, and this is no exception. It has one large sunflower bouquet and large sentiment with a lot of smaller sentiments as well. I actually have a ton of ideas for this particular stamp set, but I'm only sharing one with you today. So I'm starting out with stamping my image, and I drew a line diagonally down the card panel because I wanted to make sure that I didn't stamp over the halfway point, because I'll be flipping this card panel around and stamping that bouquet again, and I'm going to fill up the entire card panel. I had seen these types of cards with a lot of white space, black and white, and then pops of color for floral images on Instagram in various places, and I was inspired to do something similar. And so I just really wanted to use this bouquet because it really filled up the space. And I could have stopped here, but I decided that I also wanted to stamp the two corners that were left empty, and it really filled it up, and I just love how this card came together. I really enjoy floral coloring. It's probably one of my favorite things to color, but lately I've been a little bit lazy with the coloring. I've kind of been feeling more like I want to do easy coloring. So normally I would color, the lightest color to the darkest and then back out to the lightest. But lately I've just been doing darker colors and working my way to the lightest, and I've been able to get good blends. So I also wanted to create a frame within this flower panel, and I pulled out my Hero Arts nested infinity rectangles, which I think should be a staple in every crafter's arsenal. They just are so functional. I pull them out. It's probably one of my most used dies in my collection. And I used two of these to create a little frame, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. So I was going to die cut a piece of black cardstock using the same frame, but I wanted to make sure that it fit perfectly. So what I'm going to do is actually just go in with a black Copic marker on top of that little rectangle frame and color it in, and that way I don't have to cut out another piece of paper, and I minimize paper waste. So I am going to go ahead and color everything that is in that middle panel. And I'm just double checking to make sure that everything fits. And once it does, I go ahead, pull out my Copics, and I'll start coloring everything. And like I said, for my coloring, I am going from the darkest color out to my lightest. And I'll be doing that for most of all the flowers. Normally with flowers, I like a lot of dimension on them. So I will use the lightest color, work my way out to the darkest, and then back out to my lightest. But I've been really lazy. I've also been crafting and watching a lot of shows while I am coloring. And so this is kind of just, I'm in autopilot right now. I'm just coloring away. So for these flowers, I actually wanted to go to my top three color combos, which are for pinks, blues, and purples. And it's actually the colors that I started out with when I started using Copic markers. This pink combination is my favorite, R81, R83, R85. And then for the purples, it's V12, V15, and V17. For the blues, I believe I use B00, B02, and B04. And I think that if you're starting out with Copic markers, they're super expensive. I buy them on Michael's when there's a coupon, or on Blick, and they're always discounted, and their shipping rate is at $35, which is totally manageable. And this is what I started out with. I had Spectrum Noir markers that I was using, and I liked them a lot actually. They have a bullet nib, so it's a bit different from Copic markers. Copic markers have the brush nib, and I think that if you get adjusted to the Spectrum Noir markers, they work really well. The line that I was using was actually discontinued, so I now have the Spectrum Noir brush tip markers, and I just haven't used them enough because I'm so comfortable with all the color combinations. But if you guys are interested, I am thinking about starting to color with them a little bit more and hopefully finding color combinations that work well. And it is a lower price point versus Copic markers, and they also have refills. And yeah, if you're interested in it, I definitely have no problem starting to color with them and sharing my color combinations. It's just now I'm so adjusted to Copics that I always reach for them to color. And I actually had recently swatched out a bunch of different mediums, colored pencils, watercolor markers, watercolor pens, and I think that will help me use them more too, because I am just comfortable with the Copic colors. I know what I'm getting. I know which colors go together well, and I think that it's just more of a comfort thing. But if there are other mediums that you're interested in seeing me try, I'd be happy to do so if I have it. I usually am very careful with my purchases because I just don't have that much space. So anytime I do make a large purchase or anything like that, I try to declutter and destash just to, kind of balance it out. So for the rest of the panel, I go in with this bright yellow green, and it just really makes the background pop and the flowers pop. And I just really wanted something neutral and bright, and this worked. So I didn't do any shading. This is all one Copic marker and I'm done. So for the frame, I'm going in with my black Copic marker and just coloring up that frame. I'm using my Memento Tuxedo Black pen and edging the sides just so there's no white peeking through. Once I finish that, I'm going to go ahead and put everything together. And once I do that, it's like a little puzzle. I'm going to use a piece of washi just to hold it down so I can flip it over to the back side and tape everything down. So I'm just using Scotch tape so everything is held together and I can adhere it to a card panel. So once I do that, I'll flip it to the front, remove the washi, and I will go ahead and create the sentiment. So I wanted to mat it on black, and I didn't want to pull out black cardstock. I just went ahead with my Copic marker and colored a piece of white paper, stamped out the sentiment, and I trimmed it down. And I know that this stamp set has a ton of sentiments, and I just chose a very simple one with love. I put a little double-sided adhesive on the back of that, and I'm using my tube ruler just to make sure that everything lines up straight, and I'll adhere it to the card. But that is it for the card. I think it is a very simple card that doesn't have that much coloring. You can choose to have less flowers in the middle. You can color the outline instead of the inside panel, and it'll turn out to be a great card. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.